Our culture places a massive premium on the idea of being the absolute best. In almost any field, the default goal is to reach the top of the pyramid, leaving competitors behind as you keep scrambling upward. Dohyeon lived this archetype. As a young monk, he possessed a flawless memory for complex scriptures. When visiting scholars challenged the temple to intellectual debates, Dohyeon would systematically dismantle their arguments, earning him a reputation as the temple's rising star. Outperforming peers in real time creates a potent psychological feedback loop. Every demonstration of superiority triggers a spike of validation, making the status of the best feel like a necessary part of one's identity. One evening, looking down at his own reflection in the temple pond, Dohyeon internalized the logic of that feedback loop. He began to believe that his talent made him a fundamentally distinct class of person. The temple's old master stepped out of the shadows behind him and asked a single question. Does holding on to that special mind cause you agony? The master understood the mechanical flaw in Dohyeon's mindset. The desire to be exceptional automatically isolates you. It builds a fragile ego that requires constant, exhausting defense against any potential challenger. That challenger arrived a few days later. A new monk named Suyeon began grasping concepts instantly and sitting in meditation for hours without effort, drawing the temple's praise away from Dohyeon. Dohyeon's reaction was a mix of intense jealousy and internal panic. To him, Suyeon's talent wasn't just impressive, it felt like a direct assault on his value. Look at this structure. This is a hierarchical worldview. When your identity relies on holding a single top position, any new node entering that space becomes a threat to your stability. Because apex positions are mathematically scarce, a life built on attaining them is a life of constant defense. Every time someone else succeeds, your own position feels more precarious. The master didn't address Dohyeon's jealousy with a lecture. Instead, he used the physical environment of the mountain to show him how systems actually work. In a bamboo forest, the master asked which bamboo was the most valuable. Dohyeon pointed to the tallest, most dominant stalk. The master noted the reality. Without the thousands of small, average stalks surrounding it, the tall stalk would have no forest to protect it from the wind. A few days later, a heavy storm caused a stone pagoda on the mountainside to collapse into a pile of rubble. When asked which stone was the most critical, Dohyeon again pointed to the largest block. The master instead picked up the smallest rock from the base. Without that tiny foundational piece, the heavy stones at the top would have had nothing to stand on. As we zoom out from this single bright apex node, we see Dohyeon's blind spot. His personal brilliance was entirely reliant on an invisible network of teachers who trained him, peers who challenged him, and even the staff who prepared his meals. The myth of the self-made achiever ignores structural reality. An apex cannot exist without the base that supports its weight. Theory was put to the test when a summer flash flood trapped several villagers in the valley below the temple. Facing the brute force of these waters, Dohyeon rushed in alone to play the hero. He was immediately met with the physical limits of an isolated individual. He couldn't anchor the rope and pull the survivors at the same time. The other monks arrived and functioned as a synchronized unit. One anchored the line, another waded into the current, and others stabilized the victims. They succeeded because they operated as an interdependent network. This disaster demonstrated a core rule of systems. In high-stress scenarios, an integrated network of average nodes will outperform a single, disconnected apex node every time. Later that night, sitting under a clear sky, the master asked Dohyeon one final question. Which of the stars above them was the most important? Dohyeon looked at the sky and answered, none. He realized that the sky's identity depends on the collective light of all the stars, not the dominance of a single one. This is the concept of Yongi, or dependent origination. It is the observation that a single node, like this star, gains full brightness only when connected to the stars around it. Yongi describes relational reality. Nothing exists in a vacuum. Every person is the result of a vast, overlapping web of conditions. For Dohyeon, letting go of the desire to be the best wasn't a surrender of his talent. It was an alignment with how systems actually function. The master gathered Dohyeon and his three peers, Hyejin, Jinwoo, and Moojin, for a final conclusion. He lit a single candle and explained that the flame is not an independent object. It is a reaction requiring a wick, oil, and oxygen. Remove any one piece, and the individual flame vanishes. He linked this systemic dependency to the 4 disciples and their specific burdens: grief, loneliness, anger, and ambition. Whether it is grief or the need for status, these different forms of struggle stem from the same source, the illusion that we exist separately from the world around us. Listening to the evening bell, the 4 disciples finally recognize themselves not as isolated individuals, but as an interconnected forest. When you recognize you are part of a web, your suffering is no longer a weight you carry in isolation. It is a condition shared by the entire system. But the master knew the lesson wasn't quite over. There was still a 5th disciple, one who remained perfectly still, showing no outward sign of struggle at all. And as we're about to see, the absence of visible pain can be the most dangerous illusion of all.